Hey Michigan State fans, it's Jacob Katsunika here bringing you the Michigan State Insiders podcast here on Michigan State Spartans on SI. So here from Spartans Stadium, final score, Michigan State 42, Boston College 40 in double overtime. About as good of a football game as it gets here, and Michigan State is able to come out on top, improve to 2-0, a big-time win over a challenging opponent from the ACC, Boston College. That's going to be a pretty good team. I'm going to be excited to see what they do in conference play out there in the Atlantic Coast. But first things first, you're here to talk about Michigan State football. We had a back-and-forth game here. Michigan State trailed at halftime. They came out swinging in the second half. They actually had the lead towards the end of the fourth quarter. Boston College was able to tie things up and hold on to force overtime. But it's kind of funny how these games, they're 3.5 hour, 4 hour long marathons. They come down to just a couple of plays, and that's exactly what happened. Both teams scored touchdowns in double overtime, and the rule is you have to go for two. Boston College went for two, obviously, and they didn't get it. Michigan State came right over here into the end zone. I'm standing in, and on the other corner, they found Amari Kelly for the game-winning score, 2 points. That's how you get the 42-40 score. Going through it, I think the first thing we need to talk about is Aiden Childs. Bar none, I think this has to go down so far as the best game he's had as a Spartan through 14 games as the team starter. Again, he was up and down last year. He got a lot better with the turnovers in the second half of last season, but still, he was kind of in that game manager role. We weren't really seeing him chuck the ball downfield a whole lot as much as he was in the first half of the season. But here, for the first time, he really kind of had that flashy part of his game where he's making guys miss in the pocket and then taking off for a 15-yard rush. And then he's also able to launch the deep ball. He found Nick Marsh for a 41-yard score earlier in this one. 5 total touchdowns, no turnovers for Childs, bunch of rushing yards. You take out the sacks. And again, he made clutch throw after clutch throw, especially in that second half. And that's the other thing here. Michigan State, in 12 games against FBS opponents in the Jonathan Smith era before tonight, had not outscored someone in the second half. They had been outscored 9 times, and they had tied 3 times. The only time they had outscored a team in the second half with Smith was against Prairie View A&M last year, the FCS team. So, do the math on that. Here you have Boston College, a team that beat you last year, and then you come out in the second half and you're able to get things done. You go to overtime, and you're able to just make that one extra play. And I think the other thing, you can maybe look at this as optimism or pessimism, but that was not Michigan State's best game either. Like, Boston College outgained Michigan State here by about 80 yards or so. Turnover margin was even, time of possession was even, penalties were even. But Lonergan, that's a really good quarterback over there at Boston College. I'm sure Joe Rossi, the defensive coordinator here, he's probably very happy. He probably won't ever have to see Lonergan again, barring a transfer, which who knows at this stage. But Michigan State's defense was not really on their A game today. Offense was sputtering a little bit at times. But again, this team found a way, and this is not a game I think they win last year. And the reason we know that is, they went into Chestnut Hill yesterday. They had a pretty similar spot. They were up by 3 in the final couple of minutes, and they allowed the touchdown drive. They were up by 3 here tonight. Boston College is driving. It looks like, it almost seems inevitable that they're going to score because we've seen the story out there at Alumni Stadium last season. But Michigan State's defense is able to buckle down, force the field goal attempt. That sends it into overtime. And again, the offense was clicking. We saw Jay Coyne, the fullback, be able to get a touchdown here in this one. And then obviously Childs runs it in double OT. And then they have that really nice play where they have Childs drifting to his right, and he finds Kelly on the crosser over to the left side of the end zone. Defensively, you also have to give your props to Jordan Hall. 15 total tackles for him here in this one. He also had the forced fumble at the pylon right over there, where Turbo Richard of Boston College was trying to extend it out into the goal line. He knocked it out. Michigan State fell in the end zone. That play doesn't get made. We don't even get overtime. Boston College probably wins this thing in regulation. Other than the next thing, we have a kicker now. Both kickers, at least the ones that were competing for the starting spot, injured in week 1. Martin Connington comes in here in this one. It seems like he'd be eliminated. He just booms a 50-yarder like it was nothing. It would probably been good from 55 upwards of 60. I don't have the math on it. But then he made another clutch 39-yarder. So first ever college game for Connington, first ever kicks. Looked cool as a cucumber out there. But again, going back to the thing that this was not Michigan State's best game. Again, penalties were even, but Michigan State had some really costly penalties in this one. You can go on about the refs a little bit if you want to, about maybe the holding call or some other things. There was probably a pass interference call that the refs missed that should have gone on Boston College. But there were a couple of costly penalties here in this one that could have gotten Michigan State off the field, and it led to Boston College scoring some points. So in these third and long spots, when you're playing a Big Ten team, a top 25 team down the road, Michigan State's going to need to really find a way to get off the field. That's one of the things they're really going to have to work on. But again, we keep going to the outlook of the season now. You got Youngstown State here next week, FCS squad. You take care of business there. You're 3-0, and all. If you want to make a bowl game, which that's the bare minimum of what Michigan State really needs to do here. If you want to see Jonathan Smith try to climb this program bit by bit, they need to get to that 6-win plateau. If you win next week against Youngstown State, which they absolutely should, if they don't, burn the whole house down, I guess. But all you have to do is go 3-6 in Big Ten play, which is very, and I mean very doable, because they did it last year and went 5-7. This team looks improved from last year. Again, same opponent. Boston College is probably a better team than last year too. They're in year 2 of their little rebuild as well. Bill O'Brien, who has a good, was a decent NFL head coach, a couple years at Penn State. He knows what he's doing over there, and that looked like a better Boston College team than last year as well. And really, ESPN does this thing when they have a post-game win expectancy about, based off the stats, here's who's going to win most of the time. This game's probably going to be close to the 50-50 range, maybe 55-45 Boston College, because of the fact that more yards and turnover margin was about the same. So this is just a really gritty win for Michigan State, and one they really needed. Because again, they haven't beaten a power conference opponent outside of the Big Ten since that 2021 season. We all know how that went. They beat Miami on the road, and then they won the Peach Bowl against Pitt. And here, they had lost 3 games in that type of variety sense. No bowl games. You lose to Washington twice. You can't really count that against them because it was the Michael Penix Washington. But then you go into Boston College and lose a very, very winnable game last season. They're able to get it done here at home now. You got Youngstown State next week, and then you start the real challenge, the Big Ten schedule. Looking at the injury, Aiden Childs was shaken up. You saw him come back in overtime. He says he's good. That's a real big plus, of course, when your QB1 is laying on his back near the end of the fourth quarter. He says he'll be fine. But again, things are looking up. This is the first real, it's Boston College isn't Michigan or Penn State or Ohio State, or one of the shiny objects here in the Big Ten, but it's a lot better than what Michigan State had been beating lately. It's a step in the right direction. I'm not going to sit here and glamorize it all that much. Boston College isn't going to win the national championship. If they make the college football playoff, I'd be shocked. But that is not a team that Michigan State beats over the last 3 years, and that is not a game I think they win over the last 3 years. So a great win there. You're 2-0. You can kind of take that reset. You don't want to ease off against an FCS opponent, but it's a lot easier than Boston College. But that's all I have for you guys tonight. Jacob Katsunika. I'll see you guys around.